In 1976, Hanna-Barbera Productions was looking to produce a companion series to air in an hour-long block on ABC following new revival episodes of the massive hit series Scooby-Doo in an effort to stop kids from channel surfing after the Scooby-Doo show was over. For this, the creative team would need to create a series in the same vein as Scooby without being too repetitive, though that of course wouldn't be an issue they cared about as much with later productions. What Scooby was to mysteries, this one was to be for superheroes. With Hanna-Barbera already having experience with making series featuring the real deal, this series would feature a stoic stand-in for Batman and a goofy robotic dog to attract the Scooby crowd in place of Robin.
CBS, that's me!
Intentionally taking even further inspiration from Batman down to the cliffhanger act breaks, millionaire Radley Crown, voiced by Gary Owens, would become the Blue Falcon at night, and his mechanical go-go dog person Dynomutt, first called Wondermutt in early production, and voiced by Frank Welker, would join his side with all of his wacky robotic gadgets to protect Big City. The series seemed like a perfect fit and would air as the second half of the Scooby-Doo Dynomutt hours starting in the fall of 1976 following Scooby as planned. In 1978, the series would even be rerun solo in syndication. Dynomutt's legacy would continue on, but he would still often remain in the shadow of that other dog we tend to focus on here. Today on the channel, I'm going to take a look at all the times the dog Blunder and the dog detective crossed over, including their newest meetings in the 2020 film reboot SCOOB, and the most recent TV series Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, as well as the rest of Dynomutt's legacy through film and television over the last 46 years. Now, first off, let's dive into the meat of the content. We can't sit here and go over every episode of Dynomutt show proper. This video is long enough. So let's just stick to the Scooby relevant content here to keep it relevant to the channel. To start the journey, we don't have to look far. In his introductory series, they ordered a standard 16-episode run that aired across 4 months in 1976 alongside the episodes of the Scooby-Doo show. To make sure kids would stay and get invested in the new series, Scooby and the gang would cross over in the very first episode of Dynomutt's series, Everybody Hide. With the immediate setup of Radley and Dynomutt getting a notification from the Falcon Flash, heading down a secret passage while immediately changing into costume and meeting with authorities before getting into the Falcon car to go after the villain of the week, the inspiration from Batman is clearer than ever, especially the Adam West series most people were familiar with at the time. This first week, unfortunately, another investigative team is also trying to catch the villain Mr. Hyde the same night. As Dynomutt comes flying out, he dives right into Mystery Incorporated's trap set for what they believe to be their latest ghost. The gang apologizes for their mistake and offer their favorite superheroes help in catching the criminal. Scooby and Shaggy leave with the heroic duo and are attacked by Hyde, who transforms Professor Orville, the scientist working on an antidote for the very gas. This leads to Blue Falcon chasing Hyde and Dynomutt's gadgets going wrong as usual, accidentally catching BF and allowing Hyde to escape. Scooby and Dynomutt think they see Hyde and team up, but it turns out they saw a caveman dummy and then spook each other, with Dynomutt then wrecking the museum by mistaking Scooby for Hyde. Fred and the others find a clue at the scene of the crime, and Dynomutt is able to analyze it to reveal the true identity of Hyde. In retaliation to his demands of being made mayor not being met, Hyde begins spraying even more people, leaving the duo busy as they round them up for their own safety. BF then suggests that Mr. Hyde be told they'll accept his terms as part of his new plan to capture the villain, and he moves right in, using his gas on the duo. Soon enough, Hyde is taken over and uses his 2 new henchmen to steal riches from all over the city. As Hyde prepares to take over other cities, the duo asks how he plans to not stand out, and he reveals his antidote and in turn his true identity. It turns out the duo wasn't transformed, and that was all part of their plan. It worked, to be fair, but they kind of participated in a lot of crime to get here. Their very first episode, and they already have a criminal record going, and for all that, Hyde still manages to escape again. BF next has the gang set up a trap as they head back to the Hyde mansion to confront him again. Dynomutt traps Hyde's dog, and the duo work fast to finally stop Hyde once and for all. After everyone receives congratulations, Dynomutt gets one more surprise as he runs into the leftover trap the gang set and then struggles to escape. And so ends both the series premiere and the first of many crossovers with Mystery Incorporated. It's a decent introduction to the series, though for Scooby points, the gang truly doesn't have much to do here and are clearly only present to keep the attention of new viewers watching Scooby just before. Otherwise, you get a solid introduction to the duo at the front of the show. Immediately following the first, the second episode, What Now, Lowbrow, continues being a crossover, just in case people weren't sure if they were into the show yet. This week, while enjoying a beach vacation, the duo is alerted by the Falcon Flash and once more must make their way back to the Falcon lair for an update. Unfortunately, notorious villain Lowbrow was trying to get an education to improve his criminal skills. As the duo arrive to try and find him, the gang just so happens to show up at the same time. With a new tip, BF speeds off, though with the wrong dog by his side. Scooby sticks around and helps his friend, where they're led right into a department store elevator, where cars are seemingly normally found, going by the reactions. While certain nostalgic critics might be upset at Batman having a bad credit card, I say it's perfectly alright for Blue Falcon to have a Falcon credit card. I mean, if they're allowed to just drive the Falcon car around a department store, why not? The trio almost catches up to Lowbrow, but Dynomutt is Dynomutt and he gets away. Back at City Hall, BF comes up with a new plan and the entire gang helps to pull it off, advertising a fake device to make anyone smart. Later, the gang poses scientists to show off the device as advertised, with Dynomutt planted in the audience to demonstrate how it works. Just as planned, Lowbrow swoops in to steal the super brain helmet, but BF is waiting in the wings. Dynomutt brings out his cage to help stop him, but captures BF instead. And so the gang splits up to look for clues.
Like what am I doing? I'm not a dog.
Dog Wonder along with Shaggy and Scooby see Lowbrow run into a building and make a dash to capture him.
If I'd have known about this, I'd have brought my tutu.
While they aren't successful, BF arrives to direct Dynomutt in the right direction as they corner Lowbrow's gang. While Dynomutt does his best to help, as usual his best ends with everyone trapped. Because he left his scissors at home, the only way to safely get out without the trap activating is to bribe a mouse with cheese. After having to return for some change, BF spreads the cheese all over the net and the mouse safely frees everyone. Daphne then finds Lowbrow's card left behind with a potential clue. Velma works out that the images spell out an address, which BF is able to determine is the location of Lowbrow's hideout. Unfortunately, he's already out on his next caper by the time they arrive, so they split up to make their next move. Putting his plan into action, Lowbrow sends a giant rock rolling down a hill and Dynomutt goofs again, coming out flat. But thankfully BF turns on his jackhammer power in time to stop it.
Hi there, little rock!
After a quick chase with some quick thinking, BF is able to safely get Lowbrow in prison and save the day. To thank the gang for their help on the case, the duo treats them all to a dinner, though Dynomutt ruins the meal. Thus ends the second episode of the series and second crossover. For Scooby points, the gang has more presence this time, though their appearance is much more coincidental than before. Not that a cartoon from 1976 needs to have the plot any better than some friends teaming up, otherwise you have another episode that should probably satisfy Scooby viewers and continue to reinforce who this duo are. After this, Scooby and the gang would only appear one more time in episode 10, The Wizard of Ooze. Not to be confused with the Goosebumps Horrorland book. This episode opens with the villains Swamp Rat and Mudmouth hijacking trucks to steal every pump they can to pump the swamp into Big City, and not Commissioner Gordon calls on BF and Dog Wonder for help. The two disguise themselves as drivers of another truck carrying pumps to lure them out, successfully leading them to the trap.
The Blue Falcon!
And the infallible Dog Wonder!
As the villains make their escape, the duo make chase, but Dynomutt of course has to act goofy. Meanwhile, the gang finally enters the picture as we find them searching for the local swamp ghost. The gang mistakes BF and Dog Wonder for the ghost and get ready to set a trap. And thanks to Dynomutt, they're successful. Scooby happily embraces his bestie with a hug, and after Fred apologizes, BF explains what's really happening. The gang offers to help, and they split up with Scooby and Shaggy leading with Dynomutt. Unfortunately, the double doggy combo leads to hijinks. It works out though as they land near the hideout and find the villains plotting, with Dynomutt pulling out his Dino candid camera to capture the evidence. With the other two distracting as termite inspectors, Dynomutt gets his picture with the flash on. And of course gets his head stuck in the window trying to escape. Having been tied up, Dynomutt assures them they'll be safe as soon as he activates his Dino beeper, which gets it taken so it can be used to trap BF. Of course, BF and the gang answer the call and fall for the trap, and everyone is left for the gators. As the beaver chews the second tree, BF has Dynomutt use his Dino stilts and they get away. But it's too late to stop the villains from beginning to flood Big City. After a meeting at City Hall, the gang and duo split up again with a new plan and catch up, but the villains send a woman into danger to get BF off their trail. They can't drive the car up the flooded escalator, and we see that cars in an elevator truly must be common in Big City, as Dynomutt makes that his second choice. If it wasn't Floyd, he was really just about to drive right on in there again.
Gosh, BF, I guess those gators have got more shopping to do.
They find the woman in danger as Dynomutt prepares to catch her and goes under himself. Reconnecting with the gang, BF decides to have Shaggy and Scooby disguise themselves as the duo so the villains think they left, while Dynomutt screws up his job of putting up a billboard advertising gold statues to lure them out. As they catch sight of the fakes, Scooby does a malfunction to sell the act, and being Scooby does it a little too well. As the villains get to the statues, the duo reveal themselves and they make chase.
I've got one of the best Modmobile stoppers ever invented right here!
That just looks like two saws, Dog Wonder.
Dynomutt saws off the engine, but they paddle off again on a lifeboat. Using their plungers and claws, the duo captures both villains, send them off to the prison, and clean up the city. They thank the gang for the help, and Dynomutt gets ready for a nice break in the pool. But the swamp water backed up into their plumbing pipes, alligators included, as the episode ends. For Scooby points, it takes almost 6 minutes for the gang to show up, but this is probably the most they have to do in the 3 episodes, though it's still mostly Shaggy and Scooby as most crossovers tend to be. Pretty standard fare, but hopefully again does the job in keeping the Scooby audience invested enough to get into the duo on their own, and otherwise a fun episode of the show. 1 year later, in 1977, Scooby and Dynomutt would meet again in Scooby's All-Star Laff-A-Lympics. This started as a 2-hour block on ABC, which would air episodes of Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels, the Scooby-Doo Show, Scooby-Doo Where Are You?, and a few all-new 11-minute episodes of the Blue Falcon and Dynomutt. However, full episodes of the Laff-A-Lympics would also be part of this block, seeing 45 different Hanna-Barbera characters competing against each other, including Scooby and Dynomutt. Eventually, the block would be cut down to 9 minutes, including losing the Dynomutt segment, before ultimately being cancelled in favor of Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. No shade to Scrappy, I actually like him. Ultimately, Dynomutt wouldn't appear in something fully on screen again until 1998, 20 years after Laff-A-Lympics ended, on the series Dexter's Laboratory, a co-production with Hanna-Barbera, in Dynamite, episode 51 of season 2. The episode sees Blue Falcon show up at the house of the boy genius with Dynomutt, who's been dealt a fatal blow, and hopes Dexter can help. We find that the duo had been trying to stop the Red Vulture, now under a new alias, who first appeared in episode 13 of Dynomutt's original series, and the two did their usual work, including Dynomutt's goofier attacks. CF gets Dynomutt to steal back the stolen ruby, but after his goofy antics distract, the ruby is brutally ripped from his chest, killing him, which leads us back to Dexter. Dexter begins his work rebuilding Dynomutt, which works at first.
Wow, this is amazing! Well, I'll be... Will you look at that? Get a load of this! Ooh, what does this button do?
Unfortunately, Dynomutt is still himself, so Dexter unplugs him and decides he would be of no use to Blue Falcon, so he trashes him in favor of making a new Dynomutt from scratch.
Nice uniform. You on some kind of sports team?
I'm the Blue Falcon.
Oh, right, the Falcons. You guys didn't do so hot last season, huh?
Dexter shows off his new Dynomutt X90 to Blue Falcon, sending him out to show examples of what he can do, which is actually pretty terrifying and definitely scared me when I was little. BF realizes that he's out of control and that he has to stop him, but without his sidekick, so Dexter volunteers to join him. The two try to stop X90, but he's so powerful their attacks are useless. BF is distraught that he's nothing like his dog, and Dexter reveals that he's not.
What? Why?
Well, the old one was just a goofy idiot sidekick.
He wasn't just a goofy idiot sidekick. He was a go-go dog person.
Realizing they need him, BF tries to see if they can still summon Dynomutt, and he rises out of the junk pile to confront X90.
This one always gets him. Hey, big boy. Meow.
X90 is successfully distracted, chasing Dynomutt and following his dynamite bone. Taking the opportunity, BF sends Dexter to insert the deactivation chip to finally shut him down. After, the duo safely drops Dexter back home and says goodbye.
Oh gosh, it weren't nothing. It's all in a day's work for us superheroes, right, BF?
And so ends the episode. I actually didn't like this episode when I was little. It was too scary for me and didn't feel like the original. It was actually scary. But I can appreciate the appearance now, especially reviving the character after so long. Dynomutt wouldn't appear again for 5 years, this time in 2003 on the series Harvey, Birdman, Attorney at Law, in episodes 7 and 8, Dynomutt. The series served as an adult parody of Hanna-Barbera shows, starring Birdman from Birdman and the Galaxy Trio, who has since become a lawyer for fallen stars of Hanna-Barbera's past. I have actually never watched this show, as I was only 7 years old when this episode aired and was way too young to be watching, so I don't have personal context on this one. For the first time, Gary Owens and Frank Welker do not reprise their roles as BF and Dynomutt for this parody appearance. Owens would return to his iconic role only one more time after Dexter for an appearance on Johnny Bravo a year later in 2004, alongside Don Knotts and Weird Al, but without Dynomutt. As for Harvey Birdman, the episode sees Birdman expecting to be promoted to partner at his law firm, only for Blue Falcon to receive the promotion immediately as a new hire. BF introduces Dynomutt as his assistant, joining him, and while BF has a whole new personality, Dynomutt is the same as ever. Birdman has a run-in with him before getting called into a meeting to be formally introduced to BF, and told he will be taking on some of his workload.
And now, we make party!
Wow, that's a man kiss.
Birdman later sees just how luxurious BF's office is in comparison to his own. With the heroic duo together as Dynomutt quite literally shits documents and BF reads Law for Dummies. Feeling BF is unprofessional, Birdman tries to say something before the duo shows up to party more. Birdman gets progressively more upset as he runs around seeing the influence BF has had until his boss ultimately finds him with the shredded corpse of Dynomutt.
It's his balls and knots.
Birdman is arrested for the murder of Dynomutt and fired. Despite Birdman killing his friend, BF is assigned to be his attorney for the case. The prosecuting attorney brings in professionals to testify toward the evidence of the butt pictures left by the killer in the copy machine, as well as examining witnesses. Speaking to the judge alone, Birdman tries to explain the evidence of a paper jam Dynomutt must have been trying to clear, only to get caught himself because of how klutzy he is. Birdman is declared not guilty, but as it goes against his prediction, the judge declares him guilty anyway. Years later, the day comes for Birdman's execution, and as the lever is pulled, a 40th birthday banner falls instead. Everyone pops out, including Dynomutt safe and alive, revealing that this was a long-game 5-year plan by BF as a joke. And so ends this episode and appearance. I know this series has a very beloved reputation, but I still can't say that this is my thing. It's all in good fun, but I'd personally rather watch the original versions of these characters if I had to choose between the two. Still a good appearance to help the character remain in the public conscious though, even if they don't say his name. Dynomutt's next appearance would be yet another parody series, this time in 2007, in Robot Chicken Season 3, Episode 13, Ban on the Fun. I almost didn't include this one, but I included Harvey Birdman, so I felt I had to. In this dark iteration, the competitors of the Laff-A-Lympics are fed up and start violently killing each other, with Blue Falcon and Dynomutt participating as Dynomutt brings out his dino guns, only to be replaced with Scooby. And that's that. It's just a short skit, a parody of something very dark we don't need to get into here, and he's just a cameo, so nothing to say. If you like violent parodies of cartoons, if you love Robot Chicken, there you go. For the next appearance, we finally get back to the subject of this channel as Dynomutt returns in 2012 to meet up with his bestie in Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, Season 2, Episode 14, Heart of Evil. I briefly referenced Mystery Incorporated as my favorite Scooby anything in the past, and that's still true, so I'm happy to talk about it here. The show is very continuity and story heavy, so like with Birdman, we'll be sticking to what's relevant to the appearance here. BF is now voiced by Troy Baker, while Frank Welker returned again to voice the iconic dog. Because of course, he's already Fred and Scooby in the show. In what situation would you have him there and not voice all three? That's just silly. Right? The episode opens with a flashback as Radley and his dog Reggie are working security for Quest Research Laboratories, with Radley lamenting that he feels a greater call in life. Suddenly there's an explosion, and a dragon creature pops out which Reggie attacks only to get shot. With the dragon chased away by Race Bannon, he and Dr. Quest make their entrance. A really cool Hanna-Barbera cameo for fans of Johnny Quest. Thinking a bandit, Dr. Quest decides to help save Reggie. 5 years later, Mystery Inc. runs into the same dragon that attacked Reggie. Suddenly, Blue Falcon and Dynomutt show up to take it on. Dynomutt is still goofy, though he looks a lot cooler and with better animation, while BF is updated to be much more modern, serious, and Dark Knight Returns-esque. Think Frank Miller.
I'm gonna help you shed your skin, Snake. One scale at a time.
Ooh, let me help you with that, BF.
Unfortunately, the dragon gets away again.
We're not bad guys, Mr. Falcon. We're Mystery Incorporated.
Corporate greed is another symptom of a society rotting from the inside out.
Scooby introduces himself to Dynomutt as a huge fan, and they get to become besties all over again. Velma insists that Crystal Cove is their turf, and Dynomutt convinces BF that the gang smells trustworthy.
But you should know that should I need to sacrifice any of you to get my prey, I'll gladly do it.
Oh, BF. He's not kidding either.
Scooby and Dynomutt spend time hanging out while Velma shows BF what they're working with so far. They find the dragon had an eye for Quest Industries until it was sold to Destroido, the company owned by Mr. E, one of the main antagonists of the show. The duo rush in and take out all the guards in sight. The gang asks what Mr. E knows, but when he won't give it up easily, BF goes in for the attack. An alarm goes off though as the dragon starts attacking the lab, and something catches Velma's eye. Once the dragon finds what it wants and BF hears the voice, he immediately recognizes it.
I'd recognize the foul resonance of your vibrato anywhere.
His voice does have a special quality about it. I wonder if he's considered a career in the music business.
It turns out to be Dr. Zen, a regular Johnny Quest enemy, searching for the Quest X power source, which he finds inside Dynomutt. He reaches out to grab he and BF, but mistakenly flies away with Scooby instead. On Volcano Island, Dr. Zen holds them captive, and knowing BF is devoted to his dog and would do anything for him, he starts to torture Scooby, but is confused as BF doesn't react, because he's the wrong dog. Equally devoted to Scooby, Shaggy shakes information out of Mr. E, who explains he knows of the Quest X power source, but could never locate it. Luckily, Dynomutt has a tracking device on BF and calls over the Falcon car to get them to Volcano Island. Determining their captives are of no use, Dr. Zen tells the dragon to take them away, but it falls as the power source fades out and he assures it that he knows where the power source is now, just as Dynomutt makes his way there. They shoot the car down, but the gang survives and makes their way in.
Thanks to Shaggy's fancy flying, as soon as he saw your ray, he rolled the car over, dumping us all into the water, saving our lives.
Actually, that was totally an accident. I am not a great driver.
Led by Shaggy, the gang goes after the henchmen in a really cool fight scene. And Shaggy is able to free Scooby while Dynomutt licks BF awake. Dr. Zen is devastated by his loss, blaming Dynomutt for everything, and BF explains what happened that night 5 years ago. After the attack, Dr. Quest rebuilt Reggie and gave him the most powerful generator on the planet to serve as his heart. As Velma suspected, Dynomutt, however, wasn't the only cyborg created, as Dr. Zen only trusted his daughter Jenny to use the dragon suit, and the same attack fused the suit to her and has been feeding off her life force, of which Velma noticed the heat signature inside the suit earlier. Dr. Zen wanted the power source to save his daughter. Dynomutt graciously decides to give her a jumpstart from the power source despite the danger to himself, and Jenny is finally free. Dr. Zen expresses his gratitude to everyone, and then the two of them make their escape as the Volcano Island begins to explode. Dynomutt turns into a life raft, and they all escape the island safely. Not satisfied, Blue Falcon declares he'll never give up hunting Dr. Zen.
Dude, would you give it a rest? Zen isn't all that bad. After all, he loves his daughter almost as much as we love our dogs.
And so the gang ride off to safety and this episode and appearance end. I really love this episode, and though updating BF to be right out of Dark Knight Returns takes some getting used to, the appearance of the duo is such a clear love letter to these characters more than, say, the Birdman appearance. Mystery Incorporated was great at that in general. Just look at the Quest characters that appear here and in other episodes among all the other cameos and guest appearances of Hanna-Barbera's legacy characters. In 2013, not very long at all after that episode, they were probably in production around the same time, the Dog Detective and Dog Blunder would meet yet again, this time in an even bigger way. This year would see the release of the 19th direct-to-video Scooby-Doo film, Mask of the Blue Falcon. This film would see the music composers of the series Batman, the Brave and the Bold reunite to give the film that real authentic heroic flair. That series, of course, had a classic throwback to the new Scooby-Doo movies, and Scooby-Doo would more blatantly cross over in 2018 with the movie Scooby-Doo and Batman, the Brave and the Bold, where the same music composers as well as much of the cast and crew of that series would return. Fun fact, the ideas for this movie can be traced back as early as 2004, where Disney animation veteran Tad Stones wrote the unproduced film Scooby-Doo and the Anime Invasion, which sounds like a play on Alien Invasion. writers, in which the gang would go to an anime convention rather than a Comic-Con like in this version of the movie. The initial idea also started with Commander Cool and Mellomutt, Shaggy and Scooby's heroes from a pup named Scooby-Doo, in place of Blue Falcon and Dynomutt, with a much heavier focus on comics than movies. We might not have been talking about this one. That could have actually been cool, like grown-up Red Herring appearing in Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo. The movie opens with guards of the Comic-Con, one of which is a big fan of the Blue Falcon comics, and we immediately see a ton of classic Hanna-Barbera characters that exist fictionally here. It's gonna be hard to focus on the goal of Dynomutt here. We're just gonna not talk about those. Suddenly an ominous figure appears, and in a really cool throwback, it's Mr. Hyde from the very first Dynomutt episode we started with. Remember him? On their latest case, we see Scooby and Shaggy are equally big fans of the duo's comics, and Scooby only agrees to be bait if he gets called Dog Wonder. After catching the Minotaur, Shaggy rushes everyone away because it's time for the Comic-Con, and on the way they watch classic episodes of the show. This is actually new material for the movie made to look old, and not real episodes of Dynomutt though, both probably for continuity and because I presume it's supposed to be live action in-universe, an intentional equivalent to the 1966 Adam West Batman series. This is another great tie-in since the original Dynomutt show, remember, was heavily inspired by that series. Fred hates how campy the original show was though, and is much more excited for the dark and edgy reboot movie being previewed. Velma meanwhile is just excited to solve whatever happened to the guards, but Shaggy bans her from the laptop until after the convention. As they arrive, we get a really cool cameo of the crab monster from Mystery Incorporated. Okay, that's enough. We're gonna stop with no more cameos. At the convention, people gather to see the Blue Falcon reboot, and the darker, edgier Dynomutt is previewed. We've already basically seen this happen with the X-90 back in Dexter. Shaggy and Scooby are ready to enter the costume contest and agree to watch their friend Hank's nephew Austin for him because he wants to go see the Blue Falcon, and to the disappointment of Fred, he wants to go see the original actor Owen Garrison, who has a booth. This is a lovely tribute to Gary Owens, who of course was the original voice of BF. Unfortunately, the booth is completely ignored, and the BF and Dynomutt costumes on display have seen better days. When Shaggy declares they're his biggest fans, Owen explodes, proclaiming he has no fans. Upset that the studio downplays the original show, removed it from reruns, and won't release it on DVD and Blu-ray in favor of the reboot, robbing him of residuals. He declares he'll make everyone remember and cackles maniacally. Scooby and Shaggy, afraid, turn down his autograph and walk away. Meanwhile, the director of the Transmodifiers film series introduces the new movie. Excited she was allowed to just blow things up instead of telling a story. As Brad Adams, star of the movie, comes out, Gary starts screaming that he's the real and only Blue Falcon, and he's escorted away as the trailer for the movie is shown. Shaggy and Scooby are disappointed by the costumes when suddenly Mr. Hyde takes over the screen, and then pops up above the audience, so the director likes where it's going. Mr. Hyde sends bats out to attack the audience, and outside the director assures that this wasn't a publicity stunt as much as she's enjoying it, so the gang offers to help. Shaggy and Scooby explain who Mr. Hyde was in the original series, and with them knowing so much, are promoted to lead for this mystery. The gang decides to attend the director's party where they find Owen being escorted away yet again, and the director agrees he's suspicious. Unfortunately, Mr. Hyde appears again, this time with his Hyde Hound, and we get some nice cameos from past movies here. Okay, I'm done. After chasing Scooby, the Hound falls into the water and runs away scared. The next day, the gang is suspicious of Owen, but Shaggy insists it can't be him, and asks Jack Rabble, who shares the booth, to confirm. Fred is excited to see him since he's a fan of the Combat Bots TV show he was on, and Scooby and Shaggy buy one of his spy robots. More seriously, Shaggy feels it's important to prove Owen's innocence because of what the integrity of the show means to himself and to kids. As the gang is convinced it's him, Shaggy presents his evidence of everyone else it could be. The director who loves publicity, the star who doesn't want to be in the film, and his own friend Hank, who keeps disappearing. However, Velma believes Owen is the real suspect and gets Shaggy and Scooby out of the way to question him. He reiterates his anger, explaining the director made it so he could never wear the costume again and buried the show, and that wearing the costume at conventions was his only income. He storms off, shouting that they'll pay, and Velma's even more convinced of his guilt. Shaggy overhears the director wanting the cameras rolling for the next attack, and as Hank starts increasing prices for old Blue Falcon merch due to the increased demand from attacks, Austin reiterates that his uncle has been disappearing. With Austin's knowledgeable help, they realize that this Mr. Hyde is recreating all the classic appearances of the character on the show, and realize what his next move will be. In the basement, Shaggy and Scooby run into the Hound to sleep, and deeper inside, Mr. Hyde himself is preparing his plan. As the gang try to convince the security guard of danger, Shaggy and Scooby are chased onto the roof, where they try to find safety on a giant balloon, only for Mr. Hyde to jump on and cut the ropes, where he's at a perfect vantage point to start his attack. After trying to run away, Scooby and Shaggy fall into the ooze and realize it tastes like pistachio, only for them to flood City Hall and get fired from the case. On ScoopTube, footage of the incident goes viral and the two become a laughingstock. Daphne gets a call from Mr. Rabble about Owen being missing, while elsewhere, Scooby decides to give up being Dog Wonder in shame, tearfully throwing away his costume. Because they're banned now, Austin sneaks the gang into the convention using costumes, and with Mr. Rabble's help, find more clues in Mr. Hyde's lair, such as spy cameras. With the movie premiere moved to the bigger stadium, the gang realizes this was the plan all along, and the final attack begins. With Austin in danger, Scooby realizes they need a hero and runs back to get his costume.
Who are you supposed to be? Captain Necktie?
No. Dynomutt.
Scooby saves Austin, but he and Shaggy get thrown through the air into a dumpster where someone was filming to post another fail on ScoobTube. The rest of the gang is able to take out Mr. Hyde, and he falls to the ground, exposing that it's a robot. Inside, they unmask Mr. Hyde to be none other than Owen Garrison, as they expected, and he wakes up confused as to where he is and proclaiming his innocence. Meanwhile, Mr. Hyde and his hound take over an armored car full of money from the convention, and Scooby makes chase. He eventually gets him to crash, exposing himself as Owen gets away. Unfortunately, Mr. Hyde's gas knocks everyone out, and as the hound is about to attack Scooby, the Falcon car saves the day. Owen is back in his old BF costume and invites Scooby to join him as Dog Wonder to take out the villain. They destroy the hound, revealing it to be a robot as well, and the two are able to take out Mr. Hyde as everyone gathers to see, calling them heroes. Hank comes back, revealing he's been disappearing so much because he's been romancing a woman, and they finally unmask the real Mr. Hyde. It turns out to be Mr. Rabble, who is upset at having to hear Owen complain all these years and used his knowledge of robots to pull off his plan to get Owen out of the way and frame him while robbing the armored car. Meanwhile, the director and star of the movie, having learned the importance of story, bring back Owen and Dynomutt for the sequel, revealing he's the father of the new BF and Dynomutt is Scooby. And so ends this movie and appearance. For anyone hoping for another full crossover where Scooby meets the actual Dynomutt again, this one comes as a disappointment, but on every other level, it's a great movie with still enough fan service for Dynomutt fans to find something to like or love, and does good service to the legacy of the character. However, there's one more movie to cover. Yes, that's right, it's time to talk about that movie where Muttley from Wacky Braces is trapped in literal hell. SCOOB was set to be released theatrically May 15th, 2020, the first theatrical Scooby film since 2004, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it went direct to digital rental instead. It did get a theatrical re-release a year later, though. I had high hopes for this movie throughout development as we heard about it, and hearing Tony Cervone was directing made me even more excited. He's one of the main producers behind Mystery Incorporated, and we know how much I love that show, in addition to producing 6 of the great direct-to-video films. According to him, they wanted the movie to take inspiration from another favorite of mine, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and tell a bigger story that goes beyond typical Scooby-Doo, and introduces more characters from the world of Hanna-Barbera, for which he called the film a love letter. We would potentially see movies starring other HB characters and have a whole universe. As a concept, I actually loved this idea and was excited, but I can't say the final product met that excitement. Being real, I don't like this movie. I hate that they recast everyone but Scooby with celebrities. I hate Shaggy's awful voice especially, which IMO makes the movie unwatchable. And to have a Scooby-Doo movie not even have a mystery at all is just not right. Why is he in a superhero movie? If I wanted that, I'd go watch the movie we just talked about. That was a million times better. Or even the Brave and the Bold movie. Apparently the movie did fine in rental sales, like maybe more than fine. We don't know like the numbers, but like it did fine, it sounds. And they recently retroactively retconned the name to be Scooby-Doo, a new universe instead. So we still might see that universe happen, but audiences and critics did not seem to love this first entry, and I'm part of that. This year we're getting a holiday movie spin-off set in the universe, so we'll see how that is. And as for the representation of Dynomutt in the movie, this one is way off the rails of continuity and changes to the character's legacy. Similar to Mask of the Blue Falcon, but way harder. Just a different character. They are not the same dog. Since we really don't need to be talking about this movie longer than we need to, let's just cover the dino basics. The movie starts with setting up Shaggy's love for Blue Falcon, a real superhero, as a child with a room covered in merchandise like Funko Pops, action figures, and his own fan art. Later, like in Mask of the Blue Falcon, the two dressed up as the duo for Halloween for a large part of the opening. 20 minutes into the movie and after they've grown up, the two are attacked by robots and abducted up into a ship, which Shaggy realizes is the Falcon Fury, Blue Falcon's ship. We'll ignore things like the overused IKEA joke. Out comes Dee Dee Sykes, the pilot of the ship, and the first of the Hanna-Barbera Cinematic Universe characters. That's pretty long. Given the name change, let's call it the Scoobyverse. Dee Dee originates as one of the titular angels from the aforementioned Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels, and has also appeared in Laff-A-Lympics, and recently Jellystone. Here, she's completely divorced of that so much, a lot of people didn't realize who she was. She's still one of the only characters in the movie I like though, so it's not so bad. Dee Dee explains that she knows who they are and that the robots were sent by Dick Dastardly, who wants to kill them. Dastardly is our second Scoobyverse character, originating in Wacky Races and making countless appearances since, now serving as the main villain for this film. We then get perhaps the cringiest part of the movie as Blue Falcon makes his entrance. A dab? A dab? Okay, Trixie Mattel. Moving on. Here, BF is voiced by Mark Wahlberg, unfortunately, and he's very annoying. Dynomutt pops in to explain that this is actually Brian, the son of the original Blue Falcon, and has taken on the role. And Dynomutt is just as annoyed with him as me. Here, despite Frank Welker being right there as Scooby, Dynomutt is voiced by Ken Jeong. And instead of being the lovable stupid goof, he's a hyper-intelligent, snarky, ever-annoyed info dumper.
We still miss him very, 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 very...
Oh no, he's glitching.
No, I'm not. Let me finish. Very, very, very much.
Where the original Dog Wonder still looked like a dog on the outside, this design has dropped the pretense for an all-robot look. That hasn't stopped the furries though. Take a look at this promoted tweet I was forced to see on my very own timeline. By far, this is the biggest update the character has had in his history, and he's cute sometimes, I guess? But I still prefer the original. Dastardly catches up and they have to scramble, with Brian continuing to be annoying while getting chastised by Dynomutt.
It's Skulls of Cerberus, Brian. We went over this.
They don't know why he wants them, but they have to stop Dastardly from getting all 3 of the skulls of Cerberus before it's too late. Since Dastardly didn't kill them yet, Dynomutt believes he must want them alive, and Brian offers them to come along for the adventure, though Shaggy isn't as intrigued as Scooby.
Brian, quit putting filters on your selfies and get in the game.
Shaggy and Scooby accidentally give Dynomutt and Dee Dee what they need to realize where to go next, but Brian believes otherwise.
I got a DM from one of my fans who gave me the location.
Brian, those are a lot of words no one your age should be using.
Unfortunately, despite being an obvious trap, he decides for them, and they go with his choice.
Last time you listened to someone on the internet, you thought Tinder was an app that delivers firewood.
They arrive at the Funland amusement park, and just as expected, it's a trap.
Okay, Brian, we've had our differences, but this is the moment where we stand together and run! Classic Brian.
Shaggy and Scooby get split up when Dastardly reveals he only wants Scooby and that he had a dog once too.
He's lost now. Is he chipped?
We'll ignore the dick joke, he just reiterates that he wants Scooby, trying to convince him to join him, but Scooby bails.
Like drop some F-bombs!
Hey man, whoa, let's keep it PG.
Shaggy and Brian are completely incompetent together and put themselves in more danger, while Dynomutt saves Scooby and reunites them so Dee Dee can bring them back on board. Now knowing Scooby is important with Dastardly having called him the Key, and that Shaggy is completely irrelevant, Brian focuses on transforming Scooby with a supersuit, tearing a rift between he and Shaggy. Meanwhile, Dastardly captures the rest of the gang as bait, and Fred realizes he's mask for mask.
As far as masks go, I gotta say, she was pretty hot.
Using their wits to escape, Velma is able to hack Dynomutt to make contact.
We need to search.
I suddenly feel funky.
This is an emergency?
Stay out of my search history!
They lose connection, but they know where to go next, and Velma realizes Dastardly wants to use Scooby as the key to unlock literal hell. They find a picture of Muttley, Dastardly's dog and partner in crime in wacky races, but only his bull remains as Dastardly explains how he sent him to the underworld to steal treasure, but that the portal wouldn't let him return. Meanwhile, Team Scooby make their way to Messick Mountain, a lovely tribute to Don Messick, original voice of Scooby, and Shaggy tells the others that Scooby is staying with him, but they insist he'll be safer with superheroes, and he makes Scooby choose between them or him, losing. This is the worst part of the movie, just an awful contrived trope. I hate it. Anyway, Brian and Scooby relate, believing they both need a hero moment to prove themselves, and wanting to outshine the other two, they lead themselves to Captain Caveman, the next Scoobyverse character. Obviously, he's the main character of Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels, where Dee Dee originates, and has made many appearances including Mystery Incorporated. Unfortunately, he's hardly the same character beyond design. Now voiced by Tracy Morgan, he's pretty much a completely different and unrecognizable character like Dynomutt. While Dastardly, disguised as Fred, tricks Shaggy into leading him to the others, Captain Caveman takes Brian and Scooby to the final skull, and Scooby has to fight him for it, with Brian insisting it's his hero moment. After chaos ensues, Shaggy shows up and Dynomutt's suspicions are confirmed as Dastardly grabs Scooby, taking him and the final skull and dropping the others.
Whoa, nice catch! What's up?
Mask for mask. Unfortunately, Dastardly also sabotaged the Falcon Fury.
I hate it when I'm right.
We're lucky it doesn't happen often.
Brian blames Shaggy for causing this and everyone gangs up on him.
What kind of hero blames other people for his problems?
Meet Brian.
Hey, you shut your dog face.
You shut your face.
Fred and Brian start going at it, and it's clear that these mask for masks are about to make out any second. Shaggy realizes how he acted was wrong and that he'll make it up to Scooby and save him, rallying everyone to stand beside him. The gang fly in to stop Dastardly from starting the ritual, but Dastardly shoots them back down and unlocks the gate. Scooby rescues everyone from the van and they share a moment ready for what's next.
Well, that was my cardio for the day.
Dastardly makes his way into hell to find Muttley, and it seems like it's too late, but Muttley's just screwing with him, and the two happily reunite. Scooby and Shaggy come up with a plan to take down Cerberus, and Dynomutt tries to get an attack in, but gets knocked down where he finds Brian trying to call his dad for help.
Look at Scooby and Shaggy. They're terrified and they're taking on Cerberus. I'm terrified.
Why are we taking on Cerberus?
Dynomutt helps Brian realize it's okay to be scared sometimes.
This is my hero moment. My real hero moment.
And it's my moment too. My job is to have your back. So what do you say, Blue Falcon?
And so the two are finally ready to work together as a team.
Let's do this!
Brian saves Scooby as Dastardly and Muttley escape hell. Never thought I'd say that.
Aw, he got his friend back.
Daphne, focus.
Brian helps distract Cerberus as the gang's new plan goes into action, and finally get him back inside, but they realize the only way to lock it again is to use the key Scooby, which means either Scooby or Shaggy must stay on the other side as the prophecy foretold. Shaggy decides to make the sacrifice, telling Scooby he already saved him when he was a kid, and that he'll always be his best friend. Everyone is distraught, but realizes the prophecy also foretold a way to bring him back, and Scooby brings Shaggy back with the power of friendship. Shaggy puts the collar back on Scooby and they share a doggy kiss.
Ow, ow, oh, ow! Sorry. Metal tongue. Should have thought that through.
And there's those furries. Brian, Dynomutt, and Dee Dee take away Dastardly, and as the gang arrives back home to celebrate, Brian shows up with his team to be DJ for the cliché dance party.
You know, I'm proud of him, but he couldn't have done this without us.
And so ends this movie and appearance. I still really don't like it. They make a joke about Shaggy sounding like a 40-year-old man writes his dialogue trying to sound hip and young, but that's how the whole movie feels. It's not funny to dig at the original series for that when it's just how your own actual writing for this movie is, and honestly much worse. I skipped through it as much as I could, but as you can see in comparison to the previous incarnations, this is a very different universe and version of Blue Falcon and Dog Wonder, with these versions also having a cameo in Space Jam: A New Legacy, and I'd much prefer the Legacy versions. Good thing we have one more crossover with Scooby to go. After that very, very different interpretation, the next appearance goes back to the classic roots for one last team-up with the Dog Detective. In 2019, the series Scooby-Doo and Guess Who premiered, a reboot of the new Scooby-Doo movies, in which every episode has a celebrity or cartoon guest star. And the art style is much more classic than recent franchise entries, especially compared to the previous series, Love It or Hate It. At the end of 2021, after a long delay of the final episodes being held in America despite being released elsewhere, Season 2, Episode 25, the penultimate episode, Scooby-Doo Dog Wonder, was released. David Kaye provides the voice of BF this time, and thankfully, just like Mystery Incorporated, Frank Welker reprises Dynomutt again. As the episode starts, Radley Crown is hoping to buy priceless vases from Timothy Smallbottoms, as afraid that the Medusa monster rumored to be hanging around could attack them. Meanwhile, the gang is here to assure Mr. Smallbottoms that they'll keep his vases safe and catch Medusa. After excusing himself, the gang finds Mr. Smallbottoms turned to stone by Medusa and one of the vases taken. As the gang hides from Medusa, BF and Dynomutt make their flashy entrance.
Crime-fighting superhero the Blue Falcon and his faithful sidekick Dynomutt, aka the Dog Wonder.
Unfortunately, the gang runs scared right into Dynomutt and tangles them all up, and despite best efforts, Medusa gets away. The two teams introduce themselves for what, the third, fourth time? Who knows?
Well, put her there, fellow canine.
Hello.
How do you do?
Hello.
How do you do? Nice to meet you. Nice to greet you. Ooh, firm paw shake. I like that.
You're silly.
Velma personally introduces herself to BF as she's a big fan and has all the trading cards. Knowing the danger, he tells them that they should leave this case to the heroes, and the duo makes their exit.
See you cookie kids later. Dynomutt, away!
However, the gang aren't ready to sit this one out and have suspicions about Radley Crown, the man who wanted to purchase the vases. Velma comes up with a plan to sneak into the event where he's showing off a vase just like the one stolen so that they can get a better look. As Radley mysteriously disappears, Medusa shows up to steal the vase, but the duo show up just in time. Unfortunately, Medusa successfully knocks BF out and escapes with him captive. Dynomutt wakes back up and receives the news. Distraught, Dynomutt doesn't know what to do without BF, and the gang offers to help rescue him.
Time to put on my Blue Falcon hat.
But first, Dynomutt needs his sidekick, and there's only one dog for the job.
Sure you're a dog?
I think so.
I don't know. Maybe.
Dynomutt prepares to take the lead, and I love this part. Their brief shock and horror here is just perfect. Checking their next location, Dynomutt finds it suspicious that there are so many vases in a museum for priceless vases, and the curator explains she believes Radley Crown is the most suspicious due to his promising several vases he never gave, and leaving dust all over. Dynomutt and Do Wonder leave on their own, though Dynomutt doesn't quite have the hang of driving the Falcon car, crashing all over the city.
Well, at least the door's open.
The ceramics artist in the building says Radley Crown is suspicious as he had her make a ton of vases and deliver them to a shady area and owes her money. So Velma gets the address and they get on their way.
Buckle up, Do Wonder. As BF would say, it's click it or ticket.
The two crash all over the city again and right into the next building.
Well, at least the door's open. Right?
They get inside and are excited to see BF, but to Dynomutt's horror, he's been turned to stone. Medusa shows up and everyone tries to escape, but Dynomutt can't leave without BF and he's too heavy, so Do Wonder has to help. Eventually Medusa leaves and Dynomutt high-fives everyone only for BF to fall over and crumble, and despite his best efforts, he won't stay whole. However, Velma realizes it's cement, not stone, and figures out where to go. Dynomutt and Do Wonder make their fateful crash landing and...
Well,
Freddy, if you say at least the door's open again, I will scream.
Velma makes her way into the Smallbottoms family factory convinced Radley Crown is behind this, and they find all the stolen vases as Medusa bursts in. Making sure they don't turn to stone too, Dynomutt equips everyone with sunglasses.
Your glasses! Your glasses! We can't see with your dark glasses!
Dynomutt puts a rocket under Do Wonder and speeds everyone away until they get tripped and expose their eyes. Dynomutt, heartbroken, is ready to give up, but Do Wonder assures him that BF would never do that. He puts his glasses back on and runs out to go after Medusa as Velma gets an idea and they pull together a trap. Dynomutt pulls the lever and Medusa is coated with cement. Suddenly they hear a knocking and finally find BF. Dynomutt running up to his bestie here is honestly so cute. They unmask Medusa and find Timothy Smallbottoms, to the shock of Velma.
That means that Radley Crown is really the...
BF explains that Mr. Smallbottoms had been selling his vases on the black market to avoid taxes, and after running out of his own resorted to stealing others. And so the mystery is wrapped up.
It's selfie time!
Back at Radley Crown's place, Velma assures her hero that his secret is safe with her, and everyone agrees Scooby is the best do-wonder ever.
I am? Of course you are, buddy. You can be my sidekick anytime. Do-wonder Dooby-Doo!
And so ends the most recent crossover between the two iconic dogs of Hanna-Barbera after 45 years worth. Honestly, this might be my favorite appearance of the characters at this point. It's the most true to their appearance since the original series, and it's a solid episode of Guess Who, maybe one of my favorites. Finally, most recently, in 2022, Dynomutt makes a cameo in Heroes and Capes, the 39th episode of the series Jellystone. Though he doesn't say anything, the episode sees the residents of the community needing a hero as Mayor Huckleberry Hound falls down a manhole, with BF showing up to help. BF is celebrated for his good deed, and he takes the opportunity to say that they need more heroes like him, and sells the residents his merch so that they can become heroes too, leading to chaos. That's the end of the appearance, and again, Dynomutt is just there for the one shot, so there's not much else to say. It is cool to see him pop up again, though BF is much more of a joke here compared to Guess Who. They're both just a cameo, but that seems in line with Jellystone's typical portrayals. I haven't watched much of this show. I checked it out briefly and it was fine. Not super sure it's my thing personally. I need to see more, and if it's not, that's okay. Even so, I do love seeing the classic legacy Hanna-Barbera characters being used for anything. And so, as of 2022, that is the legacy of Dynomutt in film and television. As far as actual appearances go, from parody to the big screen, compared to the other legacy characters, he's had a harder time staying in the public eye, and disappeared for a decade or two sometimes, but I'm glad he keeps sticking around anyway, and that it seems he's more so around to stay these days, even if he's not always himself.
See, I'm glad about that too. Well, me too, Dog Wonder. What are you doing, pal?
Hey, calm down, guys. Alright, if you have any favorite Dynomutt moments, episodes, movies, appearances, whatever, comment below. I want to hear. If you thought this video was acceptable, also let me know. I need nice comments and attention to exist. Sorry for the year hiatus, I went through some shit. We're back, we're rebranded as Scooby-Topia, Scooby-Tropolis in certain countries, if you get that reference, thank you, and we're moving forward. Like the video to give me good vibes, subscribe to see that next video, etc. Follow me on Twitter at Legend of Justice, no spaces, that's where I'm active 24/7. Bye!